It's quite frustrating in the mainstream media, in drama and films and in books, that the East Asian experience is actually marginalised. You hardly see any East Asian person out there. And at one time, British drama was all about white people. And then over time, the black experience became more integrated. So now you generally see multiracial casts with white actors and black actors, and also increasingly Asian, as in the Asian subcontinent. But East Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Koreans and so on, in Britain, still tend to play Chinese takeaway owner, or evil Yakuza, we're gonna kill you, if you're a man. And if you're a woman, tends to be, oh, I sexy Thai girl, I'm going to give you all kinds of sexy things. But we very rarely see East Asians, well, like me, professional, articulate, not speaking English with English accent. And so it really is frustrating not to see that and to have that really patronising and stereotypical portrayal of East Asian men and women. Whereas in reality, many of us are lawyers, doctors, normal professions, as opposed to just gangsters and prostitutes. So what I want to see more of is that greater integration and the sense that as a minority, I have a feeling that it is still okay to be racist about East Asians, but not about any other ethnic minority. And I think it's about time that that changed, and that we are seen and we step up to be seen as part of the mainstream, and that we need to be respected. I think it's important for East Asians to be portrayed realistically in the media, because then we become seen as ordinary people just like you, white person. Because the more you exoticize a particular race, or the more you make them, the villains of the piece, the easier it is to treat them as other, as non-human, and therefore they can be patronised and treated as less than human, given the horrible jobs to do, or not given jobs at all. And it then becomes okay to be racist towards them, verbally abusive, and so on. Whereas if realistically we are seen to be just people going about our business with our usual love problems, work problems, family problems, and to have that texture, to be given the recognition of being full human beings in the media, then I think that would start to change the way that people who watch these shows experience the next time they come across an East Asian. They will see them as an equal human being. I mean, it's completely ridiculous to be saying this in this day and age, that please treat us as human beings, because we are human beings. But it just seems to be ridiculous that educated people who create these programs and these books still have this residual colonial idea that East Asians are somehow different, subhuman, exotic. In modern books and literature about the East Asian experience, my sense is that there is still a looking back to the colonial past, a portrayal of a time when the British still were the rulers and were still the keepers of the narrative. And for me, it was important in my first two novels, The Flame Tree and Mind Game, to kind of reverse that process, or really to challenge that perspective. I read John Grisham's The Firm, and I loved it, and it was such a page-turner. And it struck me that these thrillers are set in American cities or European cities, and they generally feature Western protagonists, usually a young white man. And I thought, why is it that there isn't a modern legal thriller that features Asia, Kuala Lumpur, my hometown, or that features an East Asian protagonist or an East Asian woman? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and write my own. So that's how The Flame Tree as a legal thriller was born. It was important to me that Jasmine, the heroine, is a Chinese East Asian woman, but she's also a successful lawyer, and that the story is essentially a modern legal thriller. And at that time when I was writing, the East Asian books that were popular was Amy Tan and Jung Chang's Wild Swans, which look back to the experiences of the women from China, and they tended to be domestic dramas. Whereas it was important for me to actually challenge that and to make it a workplace drama. And so with The Flame Tree and Mind Game, the protagonists are two dynamic Asian women, Jasmine, and in Mind Game, Faye. And with Faye in Mind Game, there's the added complexity is that she's a modern Chinese lawyer who's also a lesbian. And so that, I hope, in those portrayals of Jasmine and Faye, I wanted to challenge that concept of the East Asian woman as somehow docile and within the domestic realm. Because in reality, in the 1990s and now in the 2000s, there are all of us East Asian women who are in the workplace, who are have facing challenges as lawyers, doctors, and so on. And so why are we not portrayed in books and in literature in this way? I would love to see more East Asian stories and East Asian characters out there in the media, in theatre, film, and in books. And I think one way to do that is for East Asian writers to get on that computer, write that story, and to really be proud of our stories, not as necessarily just as East Asian stories, but to open it out to a more universal, speaking more to the universal human condition, and that it's about having the confidence and the courage to do it, perhaps in workshops, to go to writing classes or drama classes or theatre groups, and to find a way in that is beyond just yourself in your room. And for me, I started writing these stories, my books, and I sent them out to agents. And I have a writers group, a gang of friends that we get together, and we buck each other up and give each other support. With Bound Feet Blues, the script, I developed it at the Centre for Solo Performance, which is they run workshops to help you create solo performances. And that was really exciting to be able to try out each scene that I had written in front of the workshop participants, and to get their feedback and to improve the script as I went along, and to get the opportunity to perform the first draft last year in a sort of kind of graduation scratch night. So I would love more East Asian writers to get out there and create the content, and then for that to get out beyond those workshops. I suppose the challenge then is, will a theatre company, a mainstream theatre company, take on an East Asian story? That is going to be the challenge, and I would urge producers of theatre shows and publishers and agents to actually look beyond race and look at the human stories, and not to pick a story that is East Asian only because it has an exotic element, but to think beyond that. And I think readers and the audience out there are interested and are hungry for things that have a different spin and that move beyond the exoticization of East Asians. And I think there are companies like the Yellow Earth Theatre, which specialises in particular in East Asian stories, and they're brilliant. And some fantastic shows that they've created. But in a way, one needs to look beyond that. And I really, it's frustrating to be in a category, in a box. I want everybody to bust out of their boxes and to cross-categorise, cross-fertilise. Of course, it's important to speak to one's own group, and I hope that my work speaks to East Asians as much as my work speaks to a wider audience, an international audience.